Hi, I want to give you a few tips to how you can manipulate the pivot in Blender. This is for beginners and Maya users who want to try Blender. First, I'm going to show you how you can directly transform the pivot. If I'll select an object and go to the menu right here, and you get this box called Origins. Origins is the name for pivot in Blender. If I'll turn this on, you can see a gizmo appear. Now, if I'll move this gizmo, I'll turn this off and then I'll try to rotate the object. You can see the object rotate around this new position of the pivot. We want to make a shortcut to edit the pivot. So what we can do is go back to Origins. I'll remove the current shortcut. You can right click it, assign shortcut, and then press any key you want to be the new shortcut. In this case, I want to make D my shortcut for pivot. I'll select the object, press D, and you can see we can now edit the pivots. It's important to know that new shortcuts won't override old shortcuts. What I mean is, for example, R is the shortcut for rotating an object. If I'll try to assign origins to R and press R, you can see I'm still rotating the object because the new shortcut I just made won't override the old one. What if we want to snap the pivot to a vertex, for example? The way we can do it is go up here to the snapping menu, select vertex, select the object, press D to edit the pivot, and move it around using G. Now, if you want to snap, we just need to hold Control, and we can snap it to the vertices of the object. What if we want to change the rotation of the pivot, allowing it to something like a face or an edge? The way we can do it is if we go back to the snapping menu and select this option. And now, moving the pivot once again, we can hold Control and you can see the pivot is aligning itself with the element we just selected. For example, this vertex. It can also be useful if you want to align an object on top of another object. You can also select multiple snapping options using Shift. I want to show you another way you can change the pivot. If you go to Edit, Preferences, and Add-ons and search for Pi. This is a built-in add-on, the Pi menus. What you want is this Origin Pi, and the shortcut, of course, you can change later. We'll select the object, go to Edit Mode, and select this vertex, for example. We'll press the shortcut, and you can see a Pi menu has popped up. We'll select the option Origin to Selected, go back to Object Mode, and you can see the pivot has moved to the vertex we selected. We can also select the face, for example, do the same, and you can see the pivot is snapped to the middle of the face. You can also do it with like multiple selection. If I'll select this, and then try to move to the middle of those elements. I want to show you another tip regarding the snapping tool. So select the object, edit the pivot, and snap it to a vertex. We can press A. This will create an anchor point where we just selected. And if we'll select another pivot, you can see the pivot is going in between these points. So far I showed you ways to move the pivot in object mode, but what about edit mode? What if I want to rotate a face around a point? If I want to rotate this face, for example, around this edge as an axis, the way I can do it is if I go to this menu, I'll select Active Element, I'll go to Edge Mode Selection, and I'll select this edge to be my last selected element. Now, if I'll try to rotate, you can see everything I selected is rotating around this edge. What if I get a more complex mesh? Let's try the same trick again. I'll select everything here and I'll select this edge as my last active element. I'll try to rotate, but what happens is it rotates around the global axis. What I need to do is go to this menu right here and select normal. It will use this edge normals as the axis for rotation. What if I need to rotate a bunch of points around a very specific axis that isn't part of my selection? Well, for this case I can use the 3D cursor. If I'll select the object, I'll select a bunch of points right here, and I want to rotate them around this axis right here. The way I can do that is if I'll shift right click and place the 3D cursor right here, I can go to the pivot menu and choose 3D cursor. And now the 3D cursor will act as a pivot point for my selection. If I want more precise control, I can use the object origin to snap the 3D cursor to it. The way I do that is I'll select the object, I'll edit the pivot or origin, I'll carefully move it to where I want, and then I'll press Shift S to open this menu. I'll select these options, cursor to active, and you will see the cursor is snapped to my origin. I hope this video was helpful and thank you for watching.